What is up, everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we will be reacting to part 3 of the IndyCar Split series. I have been loving every episode so far. I think there's only 4 to this series, so we've just got 2 more to go. Yeah, it's been interesting to learn about like the split of IndyCar and how it's like still kind of going on. How recent it was as well. Like when I thought, when they were talking about like a split in IndyCar, I thought they meant like years and years and years ago, but it was actually pretty recent. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into this video, but before we get into it, make sure you subscribe. Over half of you that watch my videos start subscribed. Just hit the bell, it takes 2 seconds. And if you'd like to become a member on this channel and receive exclusive perks, you can also do that by hitting the join button down below. Right, let's go.
Michigan International Speedway, known for great racing, and 1995 was no exception. Unscheduled pit stops, accidents, and driver frustration all came into play as the afternoon sun beamed down on the 2-mile oval. But it all came down to the final few laps in a battle of nerves between Allenser Jr. and Scott Pruitt.
Ooh. Numerous
lead changes, but Scott Pruitt on the final lap passed to take his very first IndyCar win.
Aww.
When CART wanted to compete with the Indy 500, they didn't go to a road course. They scheduled the US 500 at Michigan International Speedway, a track owned by Roger Penske. Michigan was the fastest track IndyCar raced at. The track record was 234 miles per hour, set by Mario Andretti.
Wow.
This was slightly faster than the record at Indy, which was
232
232 miles per hour, set by Roberto Guerrero
miles
in
per hour.
1992. Michigan
What?
had the speed and excitement to compete with Indianapolis. They had the drivers, and whoever won the US 500 would earn $1 million, just slightly less than the Indy 500 winner. The US 500 was designed to copy some of Indy's schedule. Qualifying for the race would take place on the same weekend as Indy, giving each organization 2 weeks to promote the pole sitter for
I
each
can't
race.
believe this actually happened.
Like a political campaign, CART stakeholders fought to convince fans that their event would be great, while the Indy 500 would be terrible. After 79 Indy 500s, perhaps the Speedway thought too highly of themselves. The idea of ignoring the other event and focusing on their own was something neither series could do.
I didn't just fall
Can't
off
put
the
aside
turnip
their
truck.
differences.
I've been around a little while, and I've had a lot of interaction with a lot of the drivers and car owners. I've gotten to know their personalities pretty well, and a lot of it's not surprising to me.
While the US 500 had the
Preach,
stars
King.
of IndyCar, it lacked the national attention of the Indy 500 and the tradition that came with 80 years of experience. But like every year, the attention was on Indy.
Okay, here we go. 1996.
The first 2 days of Indy 500 practice were washed out by rain. When the skies cleared on Monday morning, Tony Stewart completed his rookie test and ran a practice lap of 237.336 miles per hour, easily the fastest in the history of the track. On Fast Friday practice, Lyondike ran the fastest lap in Indy history.
Guess why those guys are smiling? Ari Lyondike just went 239.2
239
miles per hour
What?
at Indianapolis. Lyondike has upped the ante again.
Meanwhile, in Michigan,
wonder
CART
what you
drivers
must be
called the
feeling
rising speeds in Indy
driving at
artificial.
that speed.
And Michael Andretti said it was simply the result of more turbo boost than in past years. AJ Foyt responded by saying Michael had been a, quote, crybaby all his life, just like his father. At Indy, team owner John De La Pena claimed Lyondike and the Menard cars had illegal levels of turbo boost. Tony Stewart said that everyone would be happier if De La Pena was loaded onto a truck and sent to Michigan.
Okay, fair.
It is a new track record. He is on the pole. Ari Lyondike is on the pole with a 233.390.
I love seeing all of this old footage.
But then something unexpected happened.
What happened?
Scott Brayton's team withdrew his car from the race. As rules stated, you couldn't requalify a car once it completed a run. so Brayton's team withdrew his sixth fastest speed, pulled out his backup car, and sent him back on track to fight for his second straight pole.
He's got the pole, baby.
What?
And he did it. He did it. A new 4-lap record. A new 4-lap record.
Okay.
Brayton's massive gamble paid off. His pole run was one of the most memorable moments in qualifying history. Hours later, it was discovered that Lyondike's car was 7 pounds too light, and his qualifying run was disqualified.
Oh
The
no.
front row was now Brayton, Stewart, and Davy Jones. In Michigan,
Davy Jones.
qualifying for the US 500
What,
was marred by
like
cold
Pirates of the Caribbean?
temperatures of 42 degrees and a wind that made it feel below freezing. Jimmy Vasser won the pole with a speed of 232 miles per hour, under Indy's time.
236.948 miles an hour. And how? Over 237 miles.
Wow. And that noise as well. Love it.
Track record. 237.498
never get bored of that noise.
miles an hour. How do you like that? R.A. Lyondike, a new track record, 10 miles.
Ari Lyondike made up for his Saturday disappointment with an even faster run. Because he qualified on the second day, however, Lyondike would start 21st. On track at Indy, the second week of practice started in a relaxed manner. The only cautions were for animals. A yellow was thrown when a chipmunk got onto the front stretch, and 2 separate yellows were thrown when a mother duck and 9 ducklings twice walked onto the track in turn 1.
9 ducklings
2
just
veteran
wandered
drivers
onto the
walked through
track.
the garage area and talked to team
Wow.
owners, hoping to race someone's backup car.
If there's footage of that, I'd
Rumors
love to
said
see that.
59-year-old Gordon Johncock might qualify a car for Ron Himmelgarn if Brad Murphy could qualify. Then on Friday, tragedy struck. Scott
Oh, what
Brayton was
happened?
practicing Tony Stewart's backup car when he suffered a punctured right rear tire entering turn 2.
We take you immediately to Indianapolis Motor Speedway for an update on the condition of the pole sitter Scott Brayton, who suffered a bad accident about 4 hours ago.
May 17th, 1996, 4 p.m. Race car driver Scott Brayton, 37, of Coldwater, Michigan, died at 12:50 p.m.
What?
local time today
Oh, I
at
just got
Methodist
chills.
Hospital of Indiana. Brayton's death was due to injuries sustained in an accident
No way.
which occurred at 12:17 p.m. today at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway during practice for this year's Indianapolis 500.
Brayton died instantly of a basilar skull fracture. It was the first time the pole sitter lost his life before the race. Tony Stewart inherited the pole from his fallen teammate, and at 24 years old became the youngest pole sitter since Rex Mays in 1936. Scott Brayton was one of the most respected drivers at Indianapolis. He raced underfunded IndyCars since 1981 and never won a race. His positive attitude and passion for the history of Indianapolis made him a fan favorite. After winning the pole for the 1995 Indy 500, Brayton laid on the track and
is so
kissed
sad.
the Yard of Bricks, one of the first people to start this annual tradition. That night, the Speedway held an emotional memorial service for Brayton.
Scott Brayton. His very name will
I still have
forever
goosebumps.
bring cheers at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Because he did it. He qualified. He was a record holder. He sat on the pole. And we pay tribute to him tonight.
Oh, I'm gonna cry.
On Sunday morning, Team Menard announced that Danny Ongaias would drive Brayton's car in the race. At 54 years old, there was a 35-year age gap between Ongaias and 19-year-old Michel Jourdain, the largest gap in race history.
Wow.
With 35 minutes left in bump day, Billy Boat crashed hard in turn 1 and missed the race. With 20 minutes left, Scott Harrington was thrown a lifeline and qualified for the race. It was unlikely he would have made the race with his first car, but with the backup provided by De La Pena Motorsports, Harrington picked up an additional 13 miles per hour.
Yep.
Double O Joe Gossett,
An additional
the last driver
13
to
miles
bump
per
into
hour.
the field.
Wow.
17 rookies would
The
start the Indy
difference
500.
2 cars can make.
At Michigan, kart supporters wore no IRL shirts. People were even turning on the media. Indianapolis journalist Robin Miller was vilified for his criticism of Speedway management. Letters to local newspapers called him a hypocrite for having experienced Indy in the 1960s while also defending the rich mega teams that boycotted Indy. Up in Michigan, CART struggled to build excitement. Drivers spent weeks telling fans that their race would be better.
When you're there and Jim Nabors is singing that song, whether you're from Indiana or not, you know, your eyes get a little moist. In fact, just the thought of Jim Nabors moistens my eyes.
When I dream about the moonlight on the Wabash, how I long for my Indiana
Balloons! I can't wait to watch from the first Indy 500. Well, actually, when this video goes out, I would have watched it.
Your cars, please. All drivers to their cars.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
And on the outside, Salazar pushes a little bit ahead.
Look at the crowds.
At the moment, but still we watch for the green flag. And there it is. Here we go. We're
Go!
racing. As Tony Stewart in a drag race with Salazar leads them into the first turn. Tony Stewart leads into turn 1 across the short chute.
The early laps were marred by several harmless spins. Once Stewart pitted, that gave the lead to Roberto Guerrero, and then Buddy Lazier, who was making his comeback from back injuries 2 months earlier. Stewart reassumed the lead after pit stops. At the same time, Tony Stewart started having boost pressure problems related to the turbocharger pop-off valve.
And the report is that Tony Stewart's engine may not be sounding at full song.
When the race restarted,
Davey
Jones led, followed by Buddy
So
Lazier
many problems.
and Stewart.
Across the north short chute, that engine sounds very sour. Got him in front of me, and again, moving slowly. Certainly hasn't got the zip in that engine. And now it's blown. A big puff of smoke out of the back of Tony Stewart's car. Dead center on the back straightaway. Well, there's a sick feeling in the cockpit of car number 20, and a sick feeling in the entire town of Rushville, Indiana. The Rushville Rocket, his day apparently is over.
Oh, I thought he had a good chance of getting it.
Ari Lyondike slowly climbed his way up to second by lap 90. The Indy 500 went back to green around 2 o'clock. At that time, the US 500 was about to begin.
The field, perhaps the most qualified in IndyCar history.
I almost forgot there was another race meant to be going on
in
there.
both Formula One cars and sports cars. 7 IndyCar titles, 131 total IndyCar victories between them. Jimmy Vasser, who has won 3 of the first 5 races of the season,
all like
and is
3
the
wide
leader
there.
coming into this race. Oh,
big crash.
Crash in turn 4. A crash approaching the green
Oh,
flag,
no, they're all involved.
and many, many cars are involved.
They didn't even really get going there.
This was a huge embarrassment for CART. After spending months proclaiming their drivers to be the best, they couldn't even make it to the green flag without crashing 13 cars.
They didn't even make it to the green flag. See, I thought they hadn't even started yet then.
Their backup cars.
But this gives us an opportunity to catch you up to date on the other big race. There are now 2 big races on Memorial Day weekend. Of course, the Indy 500 taken over by the IRL. It is about 3/4 complete even as we speak, and we check the leaderboard once again, and still Roberto Guerrero leading the race. 150 laps are in the books. Davy Jones is in second, Buddy Lazier in third.
After several close calls in the last 10 years, Guerrero was on the verge of an Indy 500 win, but it appeared fuel strategy would decide if he finally won. Guerrero pitted on lap 159, which cycled the lead of the race to Buddy Lazier. Davy Jones was on the same strategy as Roberto. If the race stayed green, both drivers would have to pit again with 2 laps to go. And 2 laps later, the caution came out.
Oh, and the yellow comes out. This is going to hurt.
What a wreck. There's so much debris everywhere.
Like Lynn St. James, we want to be careful on the identity of the other car. We think it might be Harrington, but as we said earlier, those cars, it looks to be the 44 car, the yellow and black one, that would be Harrington. So.
Now leading, Buddy Lazier made his final stop under caution. Guerrero pitted again to top off on fuel. Unfortunately, this stop proved disastrous.
Oh.
Go ahead, Mike. Okay, we got a problem in the Roberto
It's
Guerrero
always
pit. They were trying
the
to fuel
pit
it.
stops that you need to be perfect end up
They are now throwing
screwing
water all
up.
over the Roberto Guerrero car. They were not able to get the fueling device in correctly. The fueler has come behind the tank. He has been doused with a tank of water, and now they are hot. and I mean that literally and figuratively. He has shut off the engine. That could have finished the day for Roberto Guerrero, and they are very, very
what a
upset
shame.
here.
Yeah,
and
I'd be
Roberto
fuming.
Guerrero begins to climb out of the car.
This gave the lead back to Davy Jones, who was just trying to stretch his fuel to the end of the race. At the front of the field, Eliseo Salazar was the first car in line behind the pace car, but running 2 laps down after his crash with Lyondike. When the green came out, Team Scandia gave him orders to block Jones and help his teammate Alessandro Zampedri.
Tries to make a move to the inside, still trying.
Yeah, he went straight into that wall there.
And there goes Zampedri. Zampedri goes for the lead.
Oh, that's not good for him.
He looks like he's slowing down. He might be just gathering himself up. But Salazar obviously didn't want to lose another lap.
What Eliseo Salazar did for Zampedri coming down the straights here allowed Zampedri to go around Davy Jones and won. That's teamwork.
What did he do exactly?
He covered his line all the way down the pit line, and he allowed Zampedri to go on the outside.
Squeezed him into the
one.
wall.
So Johnny Rutherford at admission that Eliseo Salazar's move here as they came down was an intentional block of Davy Jones so that his teammate Alessandro Zampedri could get by.
But with 11 laps to go, Jones fought back.
Whoa, and he's running up high
I'd
there.
be out there to get my revenge.
And look at Davy.
And Davy Jones says maybe that's the fuel story there as Jones comes to the front.
With Jones back in the lead, he was forced to save fuel.
Yeah, but Jones is not out of the woods. You saw him as he just passed out of view. There he is up in the corner of the screen. And I'll tell you what, I think Lazier is able to reel him in.
And I don't think Lazier, for example, has any problem with the fuel. He's just had tough times with the traffic he's had to pass. Well, he's just
I'd be stressing like there's no tomorrow.
Lazier charging on Jones.
Oh.
Side of him, and Buddy Lazier picks up the lead of the 500 with 8 laps to go.
You can see how important it is. There is nothing like the excitement you get at the end of the Indy race.
It appeared Lazier had the race locked up until 5 laps to go.
Oh no. What else has happened now? Oh, it's smoking. There's a fire.
On the turbocharger, but
Lazier had broken his back 2 months earlier at Phoenix. By this point in the race, it was hurting so badly that he tried to stretch his arm out of the cockpit under caution to relieve the pain.
Why did I
Crash
think he was
cleared in
waving?
time for a 1-lap shootout to end the race. With a lap car
That's
between
crazy.
Lazier and
You're driving
Jones,
at that
Buddy
speed
had
and you've
clear
got to, like,
sailing
wiggle
toward
your
the
arm
finish.
about.
The
'Cause of your back.
1996 Indianapolis 500 is won by Buddy Lazier. Davy Jones finishes in second position. Crash in 4. Big crash in turn 4.
A big crash. Roberto Guerrero. We've also got a second car that flipped over as it came down the straightaway coming off
Who's
of 4.
that?
Guerrero winds up in the pits
It's Sam
sideways.
and Hearn.
And
When Guerrero got out of his car during the pit fire, his radio wasn't reconnected. He said that had he known he was a lap ahead of 6th place, he wouldn't have been running as hard. Richie Hearn's 3rd place finish tied him with Roberto Guerrero for 4th place. His bad pit stop may have cost him the race and the championship. Robbie Buell's 9th place finish put him 3rd in the standings. And at the top of the points, there was a tie between Buzz Calkins and Scott Sharp. Even though Calkins won a race and Sharp did not, the IRL rulebook said nothing about tiebreakers, and thus the drivers were named co-champions.
Co-champions.
In spite of all that had happened, the Indy 500 was a success in almost every way. The US 500 was dominated by a rookie as well. Alex Zanardi led 134 laps before losing an engine. Using his backup car, Jimmy Vasser won by 10 seconds. While the
By 10
US 500
seconds.
wasn't a sellout crowd with spectators, the TV ratings were good. 1.9 million people watched the race, the largest audience ever for an IndyCar race on ESPN. But as expected, ratings for the Indy 500 were far better, as 6.4 million people watched it. Tony George refused to comment on the state of the US 500. The head-to-head battle was won by the IRL. It may have been the biggest battle, but the war would still rage
Oh,
on.
look at those crowds. That was really good. I think that was my favourite part so far. We've only got one part left, so I wonder how the split is going to be solved, because I don't know. I didn't really know much about, apart from this series, I'd heard about the split being mentioned like briefly in other IndyCar videos, but not into this much detail, obviously. So I don't know how it was solved. So I'm looking forward to the final part. Like I said, I am looking forward to my first Indy 500. But when this video goes out, I would have already seen the Indy 500. Because today it's Friday, and this video will go out on Wednesday. So hopefully the Indy 500 was good. But yeah, that was a good video. So with that being said, if you have any other videos that you'd like me to react to, drop them in the comments. I'm working my way through everybody's suggestions at the moment. If you did want to check out any of my other socials, they are all linked down below. And if you want to become a member on this channel and receive exclusive perks, you can also do that by hitting the join button down below. But I hope you enjoyed today's reaction, and I will catch you next time for the next one. Bye!